It is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026, and this is From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast, where we discuss and break down the local and national sports headlines of the day from our neck of the Pineywoods right here in East Texas. I'm David Weaver, host of the Right Team podcast, and I'm joined today, as always, by my good friend, co-host, and local pastor, Matt Paul, who also serves as the sports director of KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas in Marshall, Texas. Matt, welcome back again to the show. I'm telling you, baseball and basketball were kind of competing for my eyes last night on the TV set. I'm going to lay some money down, which I don't normally do. Obviously, I do not bet, but I'm going to guess which one you were glued to.
Yeah, but I tell you about the seventh or eighth inning, I flipped over to that field you got behind you right there, and I did tune in for the end of that one.
Wasn't that a great atmosphere?
Really cool, really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, there were obviously Team USA fans there, of course, and they were loud as well. But man, the Mexico contingent was really getting into that. Again, I said this before. It reminds me a lot of what you see in the World Cup, which is good for baseball. I like to see that.
Very cool.
Let's get right into our show here this morning. Today's Beast Texas segment is once again sponsored by Styles Electric, proudly serving East Texas from offices in Mount Pleasant and Longview. Styles Electric has provided reliable professional electrical services for over a quarter century. For quality workmanship and trusted experience, choose Styles Electric and service that speaks for itself. Updates on our basketball state semifinals on the boys' side, of course. Matt, we have two East Texas schools that are headed to San Antonio for a shot at a state championship. St. Augustine kicked off Hearn last night, 63-55 in the 2A D1 semifinal that was played in Athens. They will be facing the winner of Panhandle versus Waco Meyer, which is being played this evening. But congratulations to the St. Augustine Wolves as they are headed for a shot at that state title.
It's really cool. A really neat atmosphere there. And I don't know if you saw, they were behind by about 7 or 8 points going in the fourth quarter. I mean, I thought that was a really impressive comeback in a high pressure situation.
They have quietly marched themselves to San Antonio. Not a whole lot you heard about St. Augustine coming into the playoff. Man, when they've gotten there, they've made a lot of noise. So congratulations to our friends down there in St. Augustine, and we'll be pulling for you down at the state tournament. They will be joined by Martins Mill, which defeated Mumford last night, 44-33. Excuse me, that was in the 2A D2 semifinal. That game was played at China Spring High School. And they will be facing a familiar foe in Lipan, which of course knocked off their girls last week in a matchup between Martins Mill and Lipan. But those two schools will be squaring off. Lipan will be coming into that one, Matt, with a 38-1 record on the season for a tough challenge for Martins Mill, which has had a pretty good record so far in and of themselves.
Yeah, that's going to be a barn burner. That's Clash of the Titans right there, no question about it.
And weather permitting, of course, I'm not so sure the weather is going to permit much today, but weather permitting, we do have a full slate of baseball and softball action going on around East Texas. Be sure and check your school's websites or your local newspaper to see where your team is playing and go out to the game and support them if you have an opportunity to do so. On the show today, we did want to run down, this Tuesday, of course, we want to run down the updated state rankings. First for softball, coming in on Texas High School Softball on their website, texashighschoolsoftball.com. We're looking at the 3A top 25 schools here. Not a whole lot of teams to look at here in the top 25 from our region, Matt. We do have number 19, Mineola, comes in along with Huge Springs and DeKalb. They're ranked 22 and 23 respectively. But that's it for our local 3A schools there in the top 25 here locally.
Yeah.
On the 4A side, going down the list here, we have Bullard that comes in at number 6, and Longview Spring Hill comes in at number 9. They have a big game going on this evening at number 14, Carthage, which will be hosting, of course, the Lady Panthers there. Sulphur Springs comes in at number 11 in the top 25 poll there in Class 4A. Lindale is number 13. The Lady Eagles with only one loss on the season coming into the night to play. They are 18-1. overall. And Van rounds out the top 25. The Lady Vandals come in with a 15-3-2 mark, and they are undefeated in district play, but they do round out and sneak into the top 25 this week. Moving on to the 5A ranks here, the only school from East Texas that is listed in the top 25 is the Hallsville Lady Cats. They've actually moved up a spot. Despite not playing last week, they will return to action tonight on the road at Texas High for their first district action. Since opening it up a couple weeks ago, the Lady Cats come in at 11-4-1, again ranked number 7 in the state in Class 5A. And then the 6A ranks, nothing here really to mention about local teams here, although you do have number 1 Waco, Midway, Kingwood, and Katy rounding out the top 3. But then coming into play Longview this evening is Forney. They are ranked 4th in the state. Again, they are 17-3, and they will be playing the Lady Lobos at Longview High School, weather permitting, this evening.
Yeah, wow. That's
a rundown of your local softball top 25 here, again, from Texas High School Softball.com. Let's go over to the boys' side. On the baseball side, again, Matt, I was unable to pull up the Texas High School Baseball.com site and top 25 poll because it is locked. I'm going to paywall. And I'm just going to admit I have not paid the fee to get that. So I did find a poll that we could talk about. However, on the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association, which I believe those two sites are fairly close to each other. Just a couple of things here to notice here on the boys' side. I do see in the 5A poll, there was no one there last week that we talked about, but Hallsville actually is now receiving votes in that poll. So the Bobcats getting some attention around the state. The number 1 team in the state in 5A is listed as Grapevine. Just by the way, on the 6A side, the number 1 team in the state is Tomball, which they are undefeated through 13 games this season. Rockwall Heath is actually of course, in Longview and Legacy's district. They come in at number 10 in the 6A poll. Moving down to 4A, Pleasant Grove remains number 2 in the state. They were 14-2. And Matt, they were actually at the Hallsville tournament this past weekend. I do believe they were supposed to play Hallsville. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong on that, but I do believe those two were expected to play each other maybe on Saturday. Of course, that game got washed out. In any event, they were here playing in the Wright Builders Classic. Lufkin Hudson comes in at number 7. They are 12-3, right outside Lufkin there. And then Spring Hill is actually receiving votes in the Texas High School Baseball Coaches Association poll. Moving down to the 3A ranks, we do have a number 2 team in the state in 3A. That's Liberty Ilo. They were in the Hallsville this past weekend and actually lost to the Bobcats in a head-to-head matchup. They come into this week's action at 11-5 on the season. Nacogdoches Central Heights also receiving some votes in the 3A poll. And then rounding out the baseball side of the top 25 this week, nothing really to mention here locally. On the 2A poll, you got Collinsville as the number 1 team in the state, followed by Tom Bean and Axtell. Those are your top 3 teams according to the baseball coaches here in Texas. And so that is your weekly poll rundown here on the Right Team podcast for baseball and softball.
Very cool. It's getting here. I mean, I'm covering a district game tonight for Marshall, so I mean it's here. We're still waiting on basketball to finish, but we're going to turn around and baseball is going to be right on its heels.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe you said that the Lady Mavs softball game is going to be at 2 this afternoon. Is that correct?
That's correct. Nacogdoches is on spring break as well, so they've moved that to 2 o'clock.
And again, we are expected here where we are to have some weather moving in later this morning, maybe lasting in through the afternoon. So as an old baseball father who spent many an hour watching the weather reports come in, hoping to get baseball games in, I'm going to say it's 50-50 whether y'all actually play those games today. But we'll see as the weather develops here in East Texas, but we are supposed to get some rain today and some maybe severe storms coming in. But hopefully they'll get those games in and won't have to reschedule, because I do know that throws havoc on coaches' schedules, not to mention radio stations, right?
For sure.
Want to thank Styles Electric again for hosting or actually sponsoring our East Texas segment once again. Appreciate your support of our podcast. Okay, let's move on now to the on-campus portion of the podcast today. Matt, again, mentioning, I know you watched a lot of basketball last night, and you did reveal your first bracket of the NCAA tournament predictions that you have coming up for this week on yesterday's show. Go back and watch that. If really good stuff, got a lot of compliments on that. But give us some tournament updates, any movers or shakers, anything that maybe went down that could change things tomorrow from last night.
Really the biggest thing, and I'm still working on kind of doing the updates because, of course, the biggest thing happened in a game that started at 10:45 last night. I almost made it to halftime, and then I was out. But Santa Clara gets a big win, a quad one win over St. Mary's in the semifinals of the West Coast Conference. They will now advance to face the perennial favorite in that conference, Gonzaga, in the conference championship game. Pretty sure Santa Clara locked up a bid with that win because St. Mary's is for sure in as well, which means the West Coast Conference is probably going to be a 3-bid league. That doesn't steal a bid from anybody. Santa Clara was already projected in the field, but they were clearly on the bubble. They were one of the last 4 in. But a win like that, I think, really is going to, at the very least, move them to the good side of the bubble. And when you're 5 days away from Selection Sunday, a lot of weird stuff has to happen for you to go from the good side of the bubble to all the way out. Now, Santa Clara can take care of it tonight by just beating Gonzaga. I say just beating, but you know what I mean. They beat Gonzaga, they're in no matter what. But also last night with Gonzaga beating Oregon State, you avoided what they call a bid thief, a team that kind of surprises and wins the conference tournament. And of course, you're going to see those, the Big 12 starting today. Some of these bigger conferences are starting today, and you're wondering about bid thieves there. You know, somebody that gets hot in one of those conference tournaments. Obviously, in the MAC where Miami of Ohio is, in the Atlantic 10 where St. Louis is, and VCU, you could see some bid thieves there. But the big news last night was Santa Clara. That was a big win for them. First NCAA tournament bid since a former Dallas Maverick was there, a Maverick great, Steve Nash. That was the last time Santa Clara made the tournament. So they're not guaranteed, but I feel pretty good about it.
And of course, we did mention yesterday, or you did on the back page, about the run that Georgia Southern was on. Well, that Cinderella run came to an end last night. I didn't have a little bit of that game until it kind of got out of hand in the second half, where it became obvious that Troy was actually going to run away and keep that one. But anyway, yeah, that potential Cinderella, and as you call it, Steeler, if you will, there did not materialize as we were watching. So I don't know if they're still America's team, as you called them yesterday, or not, because it ended rather rudely last evening.
They looked like a team playing their 6th game in 6 nights, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
They kind of had their tongues hanging out a little bit. Understandably so. You know, that's a tough draw when you have to win 7 in a row or 6 in a row to get to the big dance. But kudos to them on their run. That was memorable anyway.
For sure.
This past week for them. Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit about our baseball and softball going on the college ranks. Again, I failed to mention, I think, that ETBU is actually the sponsor of our on-campus segment here. Shout out to ETBU, of course, they're in Marshall. I didn't put it in my notes here, but ETBU is always our on-campus segment sponsor here on the Right Team podcast. And we want to thank them as always. Okay, let's go now to the baseball top 25 here for this week. We've talked about, man, you were on it a couple of weeks ago about all the upsets that are happening. And I think no one epitomizes that more than the defending national champion LSU Tigers, who, if you actually look at the poll here this week, they went from number 2 in the country all the way down to number 13, and they're not the only one, as number 9 Florida drops all the way to number 23, almost all the way from 9 all the way out in the poll. So the pollsters right now are making themselves known when it comes to these upsets. But Texas and USC, of course, remain as the only really big-time undefeated programs in the country. Surprisingly, just now noticing that USC was not in the poll until this week. They actually slip in this week at number 25, despite being undefeated on the year. Texas, of course, coming in now at number 2 behind number 1 UCLA.
Yeah, USC kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know how challenging their schedule has been comparatively speaking, but at the end of the day, everybody's played somewhere between 15 and 18 games. And if you're undefeated, you're undefeated. It's kind of like what we talk about with Miami of Ohio in college basketball. This weekend is when conference play gets going for the SEC. So we'll see a lot there. USC, it's going to be interesting. Big Ten, not known as a top baseball conference, or not a bad one. They'll have the occasional Michigan or Indiana who's competitive, but now you've added UCLA and USC and Oregon to that conference. So it's a little more competitive, obviously. I'll be curious to see how USC handles things in the Big Ten, but it's not quite like the SEC where every week you better just strap yourself in for a dogfight, hoping to get out of there with one win. And Lord, if you can get out with two, you feel really good about yourselves.
Speaking of the SEC, and the next question I really wanted to talk about was just how long can Texas and USC remain undefeated? You mentioned the start of SEC play. Let's look at the top 10, just the top 10 here. And I'm just going to rattle off these SEC schools that are in the top 10 this week. You got Texas, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Auburn, Georgia, Oklahoma. What is that? 6 teams out of the top 10 are SEC schools, as opposed to the Big Ten schools, which are basically UCLA is the only Big Ten school in the top 10 of the rankings. You do have a couple of Big Ten schools, I think, as you go deeper down. Actually, no, you just have one. To be honest, you have UCLA and USC. There's your top, your 2 teams from the Big Ten that are in the top 25 this week in baseball. Number 1 and number 25, and then everything else is sandwiched in between. That's kind of odd. But yeah, based on that, I would say USC probably has the better chance to keep it going, again, with conference play starting. Texas is really good. They're really good, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Horns fan. They're really, really good, but they're in such a tough league, man, for baseball. They can be really, really, really good and get nicked up once or twice a weekend now moving forward. So anyway, that's some interesting stuff going on in college baseball on the D1 side. Again, it gets gets ramped up now that conference play is starting across the country. On the girls' side, on the softball side, let's pull those up and look at the rankings here. Pretty much status quo for the top 3. You got Tennessee at 19-0. They are coming in at number 1, received 24 of the 25 first place votes, actually almost unanimous. Texas Tech comes in at number 2, and then Texas, the defending national champs, remain right at number 3 in the country at 19-1. The Horns got the other first place votes here that I see. After them directly are Oklahoma, Nebraska, Alabama, UCLA, Florida, Arkansas, and FSU. So another distinctly SEC blend there in the top 10 on the softball side.
Yep, and we've talked about it in both baseball and softball, just kind of up there with women's basketball. Just a conference that is unrivaled, really.
Well, the first RPI rankings came out yesterday, actually, in the NCAA, and it was kind of interesting to see. Texas Tech is ranked number 2 in the poll, but they're actually coming in at number 13 in the RPI rankings. Followed by number 14 by Oklahoma. Of course, that's more the computer side of it, where they rank just about every metric you can think of, and that's kind of where they come in. Big time of it is strength of schedule, which you're going to see that some, I guess, in the Big 12, not nearly as strong as it used to be typically, but as opposed to the SEC. Kind of surprising that Oklahoma was at number 14, after saying that. But I did want to say, because I know you have some deep ties to Texas Tech. And, of course, they kind of exploded on the scene last year and made it all the way to the World Series and got beat by Texas, of course. But Man, that pitcher they have is again making a huge difference for them as well. Going to be interesting to see if they can get back to where they were last year. They're not going to be a surprise anymore, but with Kennedy there in the circle, it may not matter if they're a surprise or not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that is, we've talked about it before. There's several differences between softball and baseball, but probably the biggest difference is if you got a dominant baseball pitcher in college baseball, you're going to see him on Friday, and then you're going to see him the next Friday. And in softball, that ain't the case.
No. And, that was part of the reason last year, I think, of course, why everyone kind of thought going into that final, it kind of gave the edge to Tech in my own mind. Kind of not wanting to buy into it a little bit too much and get my heart broken. But I mean, she literally threw until her arm almost fell off. And at that point, I'm thinking, well, she's going to throw until she can't throw with her left arm at that point, because that's just the way it is in softball. But she did. There is a breaking point, and I think she reached it, whatever that was for her. But it was all the way in the last game of the season. But they're very talented, and as long as they got her, they got a shot. Of course, Texas still has their ace back and Teagan, and so. It's all about pitching, like you said, man. I mean, if you got a good pitcher, you got a great shot. If you got two of them, you got national championship implications for sure.
Yeah.
I go back to when ETBU won their first national championship in 2010. They got hot at the right time in the playoffs, but man, it helped to have an All-American named Erica Henderson, backed up by a first-team All-Conference pitcher in Alicia Wright, and then a couple of other ones right behind them. Coach Shirley does a great job of building depth on the pitching staff. So that's where it's at for sure in softball.
Yep, no doubt about it.
Let me just go ahead and read for ETBU here, since I missed it at the start of the segment. I don't want to forget what ETBU does for us, but this on-campus portion of the podcast is always brought to you by ETBU, which combines strong academics and championship-level athletics and a Christ-centered mission that influences every part of campus life. If you're searching for a university where faith, competition, and community matter, discover Life on the Hill in Marshall, Texas. As always, visit etbu.edu to learn more. Okay, new segment here, just because we have a lot of – yes.
Real quick, before we get off the on-campus segment, speaking of Marshall stuff, I meant to mention this yesterday, but over the weekend, Wiley University announced a new director of athletics, and just I didn't know if you caught this. Dr. Darius Brooks, who has been the associate athletic director, not only announced as the new AD, but one of his first things, kind of initiatives that they announced, was launching new programs: esports, bass fishing, women's flag football, and the return of golf to Wiley University. So thought that was kind of big news. Of course, we've seen bass fishing at ETBU, and they're about to start women's flag football. But anyway, I just thought that was worth a mention, especially as much as we keep it local, and we've kept up with, Wiley with baseball and kind of relaunching softball and whatnot. But anyway, just wanted to make sure to kind of throw that in there on the on-campus portion.
I did actually see that on social media over the weekend, and seems like he's going to fit in really well there for sure with everything they got going on at Wiley.
Well, I mean, it seems like an internal promotion sort of thing, and excited for all the new stuff that may be coming. One thing we've seen at ETBU, those new sports have been very successful in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. They certainly bring in a lot of students, and it's I know it's hard on an SID in his department, but it's certainly good for the university. So congratulations to Wiley and Dr. Brooks on this new adventure. So, okay, let's move on to a little bit of a new segment here, Matt. We of course, back in the fall, covered the NFL extensively here on the podcast, and at least talked about it a lot. Hadn't had a whole lot to talk about from the pro side of things, because we've been so busy with March Madness and things of that nature, but do want to kind of circle back here to a new segment, which I'm calling Moneyball. just for the pros that are out there. Of course, when you say Moneyball and try to limit it just to professional, as we all know in college athletics anyway, right now it's that can be translated different ways. But of course, you did follow, just kind of off subject here, the quote roundtable that was held at the White House in Washington over the weekend, with President Trump hosting all the college are high priority and high profile college coaches and officials and things like that at the White House over the weekend to discuss what's going on in college athletics. And I was kind of torn by that because I want something to be done, and I think something needs to be done. There needs to be some changes and some direction going on with that, but I do get a little antsy when the government starts to get involved in it. So I'm kind of torn as to what I want to see. I wish they could get it done on their own, but apparently they can't. They can't all come to a consensus on what needs to be done. So I think I know what Nick Saban wants done. I mean, he's pretty adamant about it. It's kind of funny that I don't know necessarily, depending on what you believe, that he practiced what he preached when he was coaching in Alabama. But anyway, that was an interesting development there as we transition into this segment here called Moneyball. Of course, the big thing going on yesterday, and I mentioned it on the show, was the opening day of NFL free agency. Did you notice exactly how much money was spent yesterday, Matt, in the NFL?
I didn't see exactly how much. I know I saw a lot of headlines.
Well over $2 billion was spent on NFL players yesterday. And one at the top of the list, if you're going by ESPN's rankings, hasn't signed yet. And that's Trey Hendrickson, the edge from Cincinnati, who is 31, of course, defensive end. Supposedly the biggest name on the market, and he's still out there. Kind of a puzzling thing. And again, he's one of those enigmas. If you're like me, a Cowboys fan, I don't know that I want him. But I also know that we could use him, if that makes any sense at all. It's going to be cost prohibitive for a guy who's 31. He missed half of last season due to injury, and he's had some injury issues, particularly here the last few seasons. But when he is healthy and he's playing, he's very effective. I don't really know what to think of him in terms of what you should pay him or whatever. I'm pretty certain, based on the way things played out yesterday, he's holding out for anything in the low 30 million range, which I don't know that Dallas wants to pay that. So with every passing hour, I lose hope that Trey Hendrickson will become a Cowboy.
Yeah.
But it was a good day to be an offensive lineman, particularly center Tyler Linderbaum, who became the highest paid interior offensive lineman in NFL history, surpassing Tyler Smith of the Cowboys yesterday by well over $3 million a season. Speaking of that, he signed with the Raiders, who just about signed everyone yesterday. The Raiders themselves spent almost $200 million on contracts yesterday.
Yeah.
And so just in one day, like that, it's crazy the way that they spent money. Didn't know that until I heard it this morning. They had to actually spend money. They were not at the NFL. There's a floor on your salary cap that you had to reach, and the Raiders weren't there yet. So with all the money they spent yesterday, particularly on defense as well, they signed the two probably top linebackers on the market, Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. They signed both of them within about 5 minutes last night and brought them on. But then they do all of that. They do all the spending that they did and brought in all the really top free agents, and then they've got 10 draft picks coming up at the draft. So I don't know what kind of influence Tom Brady's having on those folks out there in Las Vegas, but they're spending a lot of cash right now.
Yeah,
they have a lot of they're keeping their powder dry in the draft for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how the Raiders improve next year.
It's really curious that many people want to go there. Brady must.
I was thinking about that
something.
too. They are the Raiders still. To me, they don't hold, as much of a traditional aura that they say, like the Cowboys or maybe the Steelers or 49ers or a iconic franchise like that. But they are still the Raiders. They're in Las Vegas. which is a whole nother discussion about, I think, the dangers and pitfalls of having a professional franchise in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
But apparently we've cleared that hurdle in major sports now. But you know, I don't know, man. How good can they be? They've been bad for a while, and it all starts at quarterback, which they're probably going to get that maybe fixed, at least to them. They're going to get the best quarterback prospect out there, the Heisman Trophy winner, of course, coming in at the top of the draft in a couple of months. So I don't know, man. It'd be interesting to see if, again, spending all this money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. The Cowboys, I mean, they didn't spend a whole lot of money yesterday. It was just good to see them actually dip their toe in the water on day one.
Yeah.
On day one. And started out before we actually got off or finished recording the podcast yesterday with Rashawn Gary coming in. And then they finished it off with Jalen Thompson, their safety, who's going to come in, who, you know, kind of, I don't know, he can do everything. This is kind of what they need to do everything, but they're still hurting at linebacker, man. They're still hurting at edge. Didn't sign a corner yesterday, and that market's drying up fast.
Yeah.
So not as big a splash as I would have hoped for the Cowboys yesterday in NFL free agency.
Yeah, and you talk about you start wondering if what they didn't do yesterday, if that's going to continue to be the case, if that's what they're targeting in April for the draft.
Right.
I'd be curious to see how that plays out.
Well, it's a dangerous game they're playing because they can't wait on the draft because they don't have enough draft picks. They do have some flexibility with those two number ones, but they have so many needs, pressing needs. Right now, they don't have any. They have one linebacker basically that you trust, and he's hurt all the time. So
yeah,
and overshown. But and this was my fear going into free agency. And look, you can hear the Cowboys talk about going all in, breaking the bank, all of this kind of stuff. But until they actually do it, it's just talk. It's just everything that it's been for the last 3 decades. But I do know this. You can't go into free agency scared to spend money.
No.
And it when they get close to signing Dean, when they get close to signing Quay Walker, when they're in the running for Trey Hendrickson, and they always come in second or third, or they don't get it done, that indicates to me you're not willing to spend the money that it takes to sign the guy. And that's a fear of spending money. And for somebody who is worth $13 billion and who made all of his money based off of being, able to take risks, for some reason, Jerry Jones is averse to risk taking when it comes to running his football team. And I can't explain why. He didn't, I don't know what the influence is that's going on in that building, but Jerry doesn't take risk anymore when it comes to football. And I just wish they'd turn him loose. I just wish he could turn himself loose. Somebody's got the reins on him. I have to think it's his son, Steven, maybe.
You really think somebody's got the reins on Jerry?
Yeah, I think if you turn Jerry loose, he would spend money. It's in his DNA.
I agree with that. I also have a hard time believing there's somebody telling him what to do.
He listens to Steven.
I guess that's true.
He listens to Steven. And Steven, there's a reason why he's called Cap Boy. He likes to think he manages the salary cap better than anyone, and that results in being afraid to spend money. And he's just afraid to spend money. So anyway, it could change today. They could go all out and go all in and bring in 3 or 4 impact guys that can build their defense. I just know that you never want to go into the draft having to draft for need. And as it stands right now, they've got major needs on defense that they don't have enough picks for. So I don't really know what else to say about it other than I'm hoping that they can find some diamonds in the rough cheaply, like they always do, because they struck out on the first day of free agency, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Speaking of striking out, did you watch? You mentioned you flipped it over a little bit late last night. Team USA in Mexico here in Dyken Park behind me. What'd you think about that?
Great atmosphere. It was kind of neat coming off the Olympics, watching something like this. You know, yeah, just high energy. Of course, you flip over to a game and it's a game you love, and there's guys wearing a Team USA uniform, and you're immediately already a little bit locked in. So good win for Team USA. You kind of knew that was going to be their toughest one in this pool. But great crowd, great atmosphere.
It really was. And you and I talked about that before. It kind of resembles a lot to me, man. At least last night watching it, that World Cup vibes.
Yeah.
Kudos to Mexico and their fans for showing up and showing out last night. The USA fans were loud as well. A lot more reserved, however, when compared to Mexico's fans, which is typical for us in our sporting events. If you ever go to a baseball game, it's very rare that most people get excited. But I was both impressed and a little bit concerned by Team USA. They scored all 5 of their runs in the 3rd inning and then didn't dent the scoreboard the rest of the night. Kind of worries me a little bit moving forward. Mexico, even though they took the loss, that certainly showed that they could play the U.S., and they're going to have to play each other again down the line this week. So the other team to watch, of course, got a big win yesterday. That was Japan over in Pool C. Of course, they shut out Czechia, which really wasn't a big surprise, held them to 2 hits. But Japan comes away with a 9-0 win there in that. Actually, earlier today, that game was played. So they're playing these games at 5 a.m. in many places. Last night, just some other key games. Puerto Rico improved to 3-0 in Pool A. Of course, they defeated Cuba 4-1. That was a big game being played down there in Puerto Rico, actually. Venezuela improves to 3-0 in Pool D. They defeated Nicaragua. It's dropped to 0-4, 4-0. The Dominican Republic, also another favorite in the tournament, had an easy time with Israel yesterday as they won 10-1. So Team USA moves on and will finish out pool play, the first round of pool play here by playing Italy, I believe, tomorrow. If I'm got that correct here, let me look on the schedule. Actually, today, they play this evening at 8 o'clock on FS1. Italy and the United States. The Italians come into that one undefeated, to be fair, and so technically have a shot there. But I did notice. Did you notice that Tarek Skubal is done? We kind of mentioned it last week. He was going to come in and make a cameo and against Great Britain of all things, and got another win over the British. But he's headed back to spring training with the Tigers, and don't know how I feel about that. I don't want to throw the guy too much under the bus. I know, his real job starts in a couple of weeks, but he did kind of leave the door open that he would come back if needed. I don't think we'll see that, but it's just kind of odd to commit to playing in these kinds of things and then leave in the middle of it.
Yeah,
but
that was always kind of stated that was what it was going to be. I know there was some measure of how much, and maybe he's waffling on that a little bit, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, it's not like this is something like the Olympics that's been around since centuries and centuries. He told Team USA, I mean, I think before the Great Britain started, he was like, I'm throwing 5 innings and then I'm going back to spring training. You got a choice there. If you're Team USA, you can say, yep, that works for us. Or you can say, well, go get somebody else. They made their choice. He was, I think, pretty clear about it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily blame him because I think he handled it the right way. But it's just weird that he's not going to be available. And he is one of the top 2 pitchers, certainly on that squad for sure. Paul Skeens, I'd take him at right now. If I had to win one game, he'd be the guy I'd put on the mound. And he went 4 innings last night, threw about 60 pitches, which I think, on a regular season schedule, he would probably come back and pitch on Sunday, and which just kind of lines up the way they want it if they can get there. But I don't know. really wish I had Scooble there as well. That's a heck of a 1-2 punch, particularly in the middle round. But again, they'll close out pool play. Look to go 4-0 this evening against Italy. Okay, but again, great atmosphere, man. Made me actually want to go and sit in a game in Dakin Park, which the only reason I have them up behind me is because of Team USA. Is an honor to them. It is. Otherwise, I do not root for the home team in that building most nights.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on to the back page of today's program here. This segment is brought to you by Right Team Services. Right Team Services helps schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through clear messaging, effective writing, and strong connections across websites and social media. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, that Right Team Services provide the voice that you need. Learn more at rightteamservices.net about how we can help you tell your story. All right, man, I've seen a little bit of what you wanted to talk about on your back page, and I'm pretty excited to hear you go into details. So roll it out, brother.
Well, you had the awards announced for major college basketball yesterday. Of course, was excited. Darius Acuff, the freshman from Arkansas, who we've talked about. I know, hoping that the Mavericks might land him. Swept the awards. He won Freshman of the Year and Player of the Year. Which I guess if you're a freshman who wins Player of the Year, you have to win Freshman of the Year. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. But thought that was really cool. Obviously, very excited. We've sung his praises on the show. But one thing I thought was really odd: AJ DeBanza does not win Player of the Year in the Big 12. BYU went 9-9, and they're actually the 10 seed in this tournament because of the way tiebreakers work. So I understand, I guess, to an extent, you want to give it to, and I'm not knocking Bradley from Arizona, a very good player. It's just like, I mean, if you've watched a game with AJ DeBanza, he is easily in the discussion for best player in the country. You maybe can mention him with one, maybe two other players. I don't know how that's not Big 12 Player of the Year worthy. In fact, some of BYU's slip could be attributed to Richie Saunders, one of their best players and starters, going out with a season-ending injury, and even still, DeBanza just upped his game. So I thought that was a little odd that he wasn't named Big 12 Player of the Year. I know that the whole default, well, Arizona's the best team, but this dude's really good. I thought he was robbed.
I would agree with that 100%.
So that was one, and I don't know if you saw, there was just breaking news that came out. A starting wing for Duke, Caleb Foster, he played the second most minutes of any Duke Blue Devil. 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Fracture in his foot, going to miss an indefinite period of time. Just came out earlier this morning, so curious to see how that plays out for Duke, something to keep in mind when you're picking your bracket. But I wanted to move to the NBA, and I want to get your take on this. But before I get to it, I didn't know if you saw SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Oklahoma City, scored over 20 again last night. He tied Wilt Chamberlain for the most consecutive games scoring at least 20 points. Listen, whatever people think about Wilt, there is no more statistical beast from the old days of the NBA than Wilt Chamberlain. And if you've matched him on something, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I actually, all the off the court stuff is light compared to some of the things you see today that Wilt went through. It was just a different era.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, quite impressive back then. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my off the here, but I know I'm on camera. But yeah, look, I used to watch for triple doubles all the time when I was keeping stats at ETBU. It doesn't happen a whole lot in the college game.
Yeah.
But it was cool when you did get the rare one that happened and you could see it coming. ETBU had a player several years ago named Cedric Isom, who probably was a scholarship player, to be honest. He didn't need to be playing D3, but he had a couple of really impressive nights where he did eclipse the triple double. But I do agree it's kind of lost its luster a little bit just because, and I don't know why it has. I mean, other than the fact that our players are just better, or we don't play really good fundamentals defensively for one person to be able to rack up, fill up a stat sheet like that.
Yeah, and that was why the reason I wanted to bring up how much how special is a triple double anymore. Nikola Jokic last night in that game. So I mentioned Gilgeous-Alexander matching Wilt on that mark. He hit the game winner, a 3-pointer with 3 seconds to go last night, or maybe even less. I don't know. But Nikola Jokic, who is by all accounts right now the best player in the NBA, 32 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists. That is astronomical. I mean, when you're getting a triple double and everything's in the teens, that's saying something. And he's even had a triple double where he had 20 rebounds and 20 assists before in an overtime game. And I look at him, and Russell Westbrook was kind of the first to do this. But Jokic is averaging 29 points a game. And bear in mind, we're on the back end of the season right now, so these numbers aren't going to shift a ton. He's averaging 29 points a game, good for 5th in the league. He's averaging 12.5 rebounds a game, good for 1st. And he's averaging 10.3 assists, good for 1st. So he's averaging a triple-double as a 6'10" big man. And in no way am I wanting to take anything away from him. If you've ever watched him, first of all, if you're not if you're just a casual basketball fan, you'll watch a Denver game and ask, why do they keep giving the ball to this kind of oafish looking guy who's sort of slowly lumbering up the court? And then you watch, he just dominates the game, and it's crazy to watch. But when you're averaging a triple double, and we're seeing it time and time again, I think it does speak. You say defense. I think it speaks to the NBA changed those rules, 10 to 20 years ago, where, the physical defenses of the day that you and I grew up with, the Pistons in the 90s, and then the Spurs moving forward with Tim Duncan after that, can't play defense like that anymore. They're going to get calls. And so why did they do it? Because people got tired of watching 79 to 75 basketball games. So I get it, but I think part of what we're seeing is a little bit of inflation of the stats. I don't want to take away from Jokic. I do think he's the best player in the NBA. But man, when you're out here averaging numbers like that, whew, that is something, to say the least.
Yeah, and it still is quite an accomplishment, especially at that level when you do hit that triple double, right? I mean,
yeah,
they just make it look so much easier nowadays, and it's not as rare as it used to be. And I guess maybe we ought to start pointing toward quadruple doubles as being the standard now. Maybe that's something to shoot for.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Or what do they call it? The quadruple nickel, when you get at least 5 of the other. Yeah. But anyway.
So anyway, good stuff there on the back page from Matt this morning. All right, let me give you just a couple of things I noticed yesterday that I wanted to bring up. Did you see that DeSoto will be squaring off in football? The defending state champ, who has dropped to 5A this year, we've taken on St. Thomas Aquinas out of Florida. It was announced yesterday that those two schools will be playing this upcoming football season. So Texas's best against one of Florida's best coming up this fall. I've always heard about St. Thomas Aquinas. I went back and did some research. Here are some of their graduates: Michael Irvin, Joey and Nick Bosa, Asante Samuel Jr., and Dallas Turner, who is right now an all-pro, Pro Bowl type player with Minnesota. Played at Alabama. At least one NFL draft pick has come from this school in 8 of the last 10 years.
Wow.
So Coach Claude Mathis, who folks in Marshall will fondly remember, as coach, of course, the coach of DeSoto, and knowing Claude, he's already started pumping his kids up to play this game.
Oh, yeah.
And I did see yesterday they have on their it will be the toughest by far non-district schedule in 5A.
Yeah.
DeSoto is playing St. Thomas Aquinas, Allen, and Duncanville. Those are their 3 non-conference or non-district opponents next year.
Man.
So Claude is getting them ready. I can promise you right now, those kids are pointing towards those 3 games as their season next year. So football will be around the corner, folks. It's not that far away. So I know you and I are ready for that as well.
Yep.
Coach Vic Schaefer at the University of Texas, the Lady Longhorns, of course, on Sunday won the SEC championship going away against South Carolina. They kind of got a gorilla off their back, so to speak, when they defeated South Carolina on Sunday. Of course, they got knocked out last year in the Final Four by South Carolina. But I kind of went back and did some things. I saw some things come over on X the last few days about Coach Vic Schaefer. And look, everyone knows that listens to this podcast that I am a Texas Longhorn homer. That's who I am. That's what I do. But this guy really is one of the best. He is a believer, and he gives glory to the Lord for all of this when he talks, for sure. But looking at what he's done over the past 10 seasons, just listen to this. He's won 3 SEC regular season championships, 2 SEC tournament champions. He's the only coach in SEC history to take two different programs and win the SEC tournament.
Wow.
He won a Big 12 regular season championship. He won 2 Big 12 tournament championships. He's a 3-time SEC Coach of the Year. He also won a Big 12 Coach of the Year. He's made 3 Final Fours. He has six seasons with at least 30 wins and 6 different seasons ranked in the AP top 3. Of course, he did come to Texas from Mississippi State. Of course, if you remember a few years ago, he took Mississippi State to the Final Four before he took the Texas job. So just wanted to give a shout out to Coach Vic. Really a good guy in college basketball. You can tell his players love playing for him. And that was a big win for them on Sunday. They had been challenged in the SEC several times this year against South Carolina. They lost to LSU, had a big loss at Vanderbilt, and for them to finally come together and go through and become the unquestioned champion on Sunday was pretty cool for a Texas fan anyway.
Yeah. As a big win, we've talked about the women's college basketball world running through Connecticut. But if there was one who's the biggest challenger right now to Connecticut, it's South Carolina. It really is. And so to win the conference championship over them, I don't know that we can overstate how big a deal that was.
Doing it in their backyard in Greenville, right? I mean, added more to it. I mean, you definitely proved to yourself that you can play with anyone, including UConn.
Yep.
When that time comes. So again, big win for the Lady Horns on Sunday, but also pretty nice way to do it for their head coach as well. He's a good guy. Okay, a couple more things here I wanted to make mention here. Of course, with the NCAA tournament coming up, I saw this tweet, and I want to kind of to test you. I didn't give you the link to this. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I wanted to test you in your basketball knowledge.
Okay.
With the most all-time NCAA tournament appearances. Okay. See if you can name the top 5. Who's number 1?
I gotta believe Kentucky's in the top 5.
Kentucky's number 1. They have 62 NCAA tournament appearances.
I would have
give me the
next
4.
Do what?
Give me the next 4. You don't have to put them in order. Just give me the next 4.
Let's see. Okay. Is Indiana on there?
Indiana's on there. They're just outside of the top 5. They're number 6.
Number 6.
Number 4,
Okay.
41.
Let's go UCLA.
UCLA is 4th. They have 51
All right.
appearances.
Let's do with how many? How many did you say?
They have 51. UCLA has 51.
Okay.
Number 1 Kentucky with 62. The number 5 has 47.
Okay. Is Kansas on there?
Kansas is number 3 at 52.
All right.
Two more spots.
Let's see.
Dead air here, folks.
I feel like North Carolina.
They're number 2, 54.
Okay, so
Who's
I'm
number
missing
5, 47?
See, and I don't know what Duke was before Coach K, and that's going back to the mid '80s, so that's like 40 something years. So I'm hesitant on them. Maybe them. Let's see. I guess. Yeah, I'll just say Duke.
It is Duke.
Okay.
Number 5, 47. They're at 47. Indiana, of course, at 6. Man, you did that. You didn't have any wrong answers. That's perfect.
Well, I did get that number 6, but yeah.
I'll give you that.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Not surprising to me here. Number 7 is Louisville at 40.
I considered them too.
Followed by Villanova at 40. So they're 7th. This one really surprised me, the number 8. My Texas Longhorns. 39.
Hey, look at that. Look at that.
It is going back a ways. It has to. But anyway, those are the top 8. And they go, let's see, what is 6 times 8? 48. They've got 48 schools listed here, all the way down to 22 appearances. I don't even recognize the logo, though, so we won't even mention it. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Of all the quote SEC schools, Texas is 2nd to Kentucky.
Wow.
In the all-time NCAA tournament appearances. There's a trivia for the day, folks. And then on a sad note, I did want to mention here, and we are going to have, just as a reminder, Matt will not be with us tomorrow. He will be in Arkansas with your parents, correct?
That's right.
He'll be back with us on Thursday. But we will have a guest host tomorrow with Jack Stallard will be back with us here, the sports editor of the Longview News Journal, will be ably filling in, and I'm going to get his thoughts on this next one here. But the sad thing to note here, that the passing away of Tommy Aldridge, who was the very first girls basketball coach at Longview. He installed the program back in the 70s. Well, he passed away earlier this week. And I remember Coach Aldridge when I was covering the district as a young reporter back in the late 90s. He was toward the end of his career then, still going strong, however. And his teams were really good even then. But he did start the Lady Lobo program, and by the end of his career, he had over 900 wins, 25 district championships, appeared in 16 regionals, made 3 state championship appearances, and actually won the 1984 state championship. That was the season in which Longview went 39-0 to win the state championship. So
wow.
He did pass away, ranked as one of the top 100 coaches in the UIL, was elected to the Texas High School Basketball Hall of Fame just a couple of years ago in 2024. But just, thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Again, an East Texas coaching legend there and at Longview High School. He did pass away earlier this week. And I'm going to get some more insight. I know Jack knew him a lot better than I did, and we'll have that on tomorrow's show for sure.
Cool.
Okay, let's move on to this date in sports history. This is our daily segment where we highlight some key moments in the history of sports, some notable events, birthdays, and deaths of some of the greatest names in sports. Some of these I don't know, some of them I do. But in 1963, I thought this was very notable that rookie Pete Rose made his spring training debut with the Reds. And of course, as Pete would do, he had 2 hits in his first 2 at-bats. And they didn't even count his, of course, major league record. This is 2 spring training at-bats, but today was the day in 1963 in which Pete Rose made his major league debut in a spring training game.
Golly, didn't know that.
6 years before I was born. That makes me feel really old.
Oh, gosh.
And I know you'll get a kick out of this next one and have some input, Matt. But today is born in 1961 on March the 10th was when Bobby Petrino, college football coach, who is now the offensive coordinator at the University of North Carolina under Bill Belichick.
Bobby and
You know
Bill.
Bobby Petrino very well.
Yep, sure do.
You have any hard feelings toward him, or did he go a long way in Arkansas of smoothing that over the last couple of years?
I don't have hard feelings toward him because and it's more of a faith thing than it is a sports thing. I can tell he is genuinely remorseful about what he did, not just to his family, but really to an entire state, an entire fan base. And
you said on this show that you guys are still trying to come back from that. That's really a large part of what is going on.
Oh yes. Oh yes, no doubt about it. And he he has been very open about it. And I have no reason to doubt that it's genuine. And so as a believer in Jesus Christ, as a follower of Jesus Christ, I can't sit here and have hard feelings towards someone who's screwed up and has sought forgiveness and repented of what he's done. I mean, that's all of our story. So I don't have hard feelings, but you're right. As a sports fan, our football program has still never recovered. We've had one 9-win season since that happened, and that was April of 2012, I think. So, I mean, you tell me. Especially when his last 2 years we went 10-3 and 11-2, and reached a number 3 ranking, and finished his last year number 5 in the country. So, you tell me.
Yeah, he was out on the cusp of rebuilding Arkansas, and then of course tragedy struck of his own making, and I agree, you guys are still trying to dig out from all of that. But it was neat to see him come back and kind of get a little bit of redemption, if you will, from a football standpoint, and to the point where he was your interim coach at the end of last year, and you guys playing competitively for the most part. But he is now the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick at North Carolina. So anyway, today is Bobby Petrino's birthday as he turns 64 today. And happy birthday to Coach Petrino. Born on the same day in 1961, also turning 64 today, is NFL sideline reporter Pam Oliver.
Oh, wow.
Probably is a pioneer, I would say, in NFL sideline reporting, particularly on the female side. I mean, she kind of is the epitome of what that industry has become in terms of sideline reporting. But anyway, happy birthday to Pam Oliver today as she turns 64 years old.
Now, I got to ask, it would be 65, right?
Is it 65? Yes, it is 65. I'm sorry, my
gotcha.
Math my math
but yeah,
65.
I'll tell you what, Pam Oliver is I've just always been impressed. I feel like and I don't care if we're talking male or female, some of those sideline reporters, those interviews and just their whole role feels forced to me sometimes. I've never felt that way with her. And so, yeah, I think she's been really solid.
Consideration at some point for the Hall of Fame. In the broadcasting wing. She deserves it. Again, trailblazer there on the sideline. Born in 1965 on March the 10th, so today is his birthday. Rod Woodson, NFL Hall of Fame defensive back. Played for, of course, came in with the Steelers, went to the 49ers, really made a name for himself for the most part in Baltimore, and then closed out, I think, in Green Bay, if I'm remembering correctly. I think he played some time there with Green Bay. Super Bowl winning champion, and really, really, really great defensive back in the history of the NFL. Anyway, he's in the Hall of Fame, so yeah, he's in that group. But he turns, my math is off today. 1965. What does that make him?
That's going to be 61 today.
61.
I will always remember him with the Steelers. I don't know. I can't picture him in any uniform other than the Steelers. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I believe he played in a Super Bowl with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Green Bay. believe he went on different Super Bowl teams with those teams. So
wow.
One of the NFL's best to ever do it. He was the closest to Deion Sanders that I remember, particularly in that era.
As far as popularity, yeah, I felt like though you were never worried that Deion was going to pop you. You were worried that Rod Woodson was going to pop you, and
that's why he made a great safety when they moved him to safety. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, he was
for
a physical player, and he was an all-pro safety once they moved him from cornerback. So anyway, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Rod Woodson. One big death that I wanted to mention today here, and I don't know if you follow professional wrestling at all, Matt. I can't believe it's on ESPN now. It blows my mind that professional wrestling is actually on ESPN and promoted on ESPN. But key part of my childhood, it was a different game back then. But anyway, on this date in 2007, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, folks who follow professional wrestling, particularly locally, will remember Big Cat Ernie Ladd. But he died of colon cancer at the age of 68 on March 10th, 2007. He was an actually really accomplished football player before going into wrestling. He's in the Grambling State Hall of Fame as a football player, played in the NFL for several years for the Chargers. He was drafted by the Chargers. He also played for the Houston Oilers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Had 17 sacks one year in 1965. That was before sacks were actually a stat. So 17 sacks as a defensive end / defensive tackle. When he retired, he did go into professional wrestling, as a lot of football players did back then during that era. That was kind of a natural transition for him. But if you remember Ernie the Cat Ladd, the Big Cat, in wrestling anyway, he was known as a heel, which is the villain, the bad guy. And he was very, very good at doing that. I remember watching him live over in Shreveport one night, and he was a huge individual, a very, very giant man. But he did have major matches in the WWE, well, what is now the WWE, which was the WWE back then. But he wrestled legends such as Andre the Giant, Dusty Rhodes, the Junkyard Dog. Most folks remember who Junkyard Dog was, JYD. And that was one of his big rivals, actually, in the NWA was Junkyard Dog. And so, anyway, all of that to say, big part of my childhood was watching folks like a Big Cat Ernie Ladd. But anyway, he passed away on this day back in 2007. Any memories for you? Did you follow professional wrestling at all up there in Arkansas?
I not until I was like teenager age. So like my days of watching wrestling, I had a little phase for a few years, but it usually centered around, it's funny, what would be considered in my mind newer, but they're not anymore. I mean, we're talking about, 25, 30 years ago, but the Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, things like that. So I'm familiar with that name of Big Cat, but not.
Yeah, he was one of those wrestlers that was part of the vintage era, as I call it. The big question was whether it was fake or not, and nobody would confirm it or not. Now they just openly tell you it's a show, right? I mean, and
yes,
shockingly enough, again, they're now $1 billion industry by being truthful and transparent. It's just now it is actual entertainment, and I'm not into it nearly as much as I used to be. But yeah, it was a big part of my childhood and my family. So and so was Big Cat. I remember him distinctly. Okay, final word of the day comes from 2 Corinthians 9:8, which says, "And God is able to make every grace overflow to you, so that in every way, always having everything you need, you may excel in every good work." Reminder today that God doesn't just meet our needs, he equips us to make a difference. So trust his provision and use what he's given for you good today. He's Matt again. I'm David. I want to thank everyone out there, all our right teamers, for listening to us here, whether you're in East Texas or beyond. Again, as a reminder, Matt won't be with us tomorrow. He'll be back on Thursday. We will have Jack Stowler to fill in while he's out traveling. So I'm looking forward to chatting with Jack once again. Good friend of mine. Everyone have a terrific Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow for another jam-packed episode of From the Press Box here on the Right Team Podcast. And until then, as always, have a great day, stay dry, and keep writing your story.
This episode of the Right Team Podcast is also brought to you by Stiles Electric. For over 25 years, Stiles Electric has been providing reliable, professional electrical installation and repair service all throughout East Texas and beyond. We specialize in industrial and commercial projects of all sizes. We are proud to be a part of our communities and schools here in East Texas. Contact us today at 903-236-2536. That's Stiles Electric, reliable, professional, and experienced.
Connecting students to their passion and equipping them for their purpose. East Texas Baptist University is a Christ-centered institution committed to challenging and encouraging each student in mind, body, and spirit. With over 45 undergraduate programs and 14 master's degrees, ETBU's educational experience enables you to discover your purpose, find your path, and pursue your calling. Join the Tiger family today. It's not too late. Apply today at etbu.edu/apply.
Did you know that someone somewhere is talking about you? Yes, your school district, your business, your church, your nonprofit group is always the subject of a conversation somewhere. Maybe it's Facebook gossip, maybe it's talk around the water cooler, maybe it's written in a newspaper or a blog somewhere. At Right Team Services, we work with you to manage that conversation more effectively, to give all of your stakeholders an opportunity to hear your message. We help you create a culture of transparency in your organization that makes your customers and stakeholders feel comfortable as part of the story, and as a result, will help your business or school district become a more effective, trusted member of your community. Contact me today at rightteamservices@gmail.com to learn more about how Right Team can help you tell your story.